Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another Code With Me video. If you're new here, my name is Jackie and I'm a self-taught software engineer with a background in mechanical and aerospace engineering. And today I'm going to design a Tetris game. We are building this game in Python and we're going to use the pygame library. If you're not familiar with my Code With Me videos, I just want to give you a heads up. These are not exactly step-by-step tutorials. These are more videos which I like to film to challenge myself to build something and to kind of inspire or motivate you guys to also pick something which you would like to build for fun and learn something new along the way. Tetris is definitely more complex than other games which I've built on my channel, so let's see how far we get today. This might be a two-part endeavor. But yeah, regardless, I hope you guys enjoy it and I hope that we can both learn something along the way. I will leave the GitHub link down below and it will contain the code that we will build today. Okay, so since Tetris is a bit more of a complex game, I'm gonna build it using object-oriented programming just so that we can benefit from better organization and more structure in our code. If we think about it, in order to build Tetris, we need a board, we need tiles. So tiles are the pieces in the game. The tiles have a predetermined shape. These tiles can move and rotate on the board. And then I guess we need the ground. The ground will be all the deposited pieces on the bottom. I think to get started, I'm going to create a few classes, and the classes will be the board, the tile, maybe the shape, and the ground. By the way, if you're ever wondering or considering whether something should be a class or not, it's always helpful to think of it in terms of functionality. If it has specific functionality and specific logic, which only applies to that item, then it's justified and it makes sense to make a class out of it. In terms of game logic, we will need an algorithm to move and rotate the tiles. We will need an algorithm to detect and delete completed rows. And we will need an algorithm to detect collision between tiles so that our tile doesn't go through other tiles or doesn't go outside of our board. So we always need to be aware of where our tile sits with reference to the board and the ground as well. Let's start with a fresh repository. I'm first going to create a virtual environment so that we have a requirements file where we can add all our dependencies. By the way, how cool is my Stanley Cup? I created a requirements file and I added our dependencies to it. I installed pygame as well. You can just like pip install it. And now I'm going to start by creating the classes that I mentioned earlier and building the background for the game, which will be the boards. And I'm going to create another class for the game itself, where we can initiate a game. I'm going to call it Tetris. Tetris.py. Let's start with the boards. I'm going to give it a certain height and width. I don't know, 20. And I'm going to create an empty matrix with this size. Width and height. I'm going to add the type as well. The way the pygame library works, as far as I understand it, is that it renders your screen with a certain frequency. So if I want to see changes on my screen, I really actually need to re-render it. So I'm going to pass in a new variable into my board class, which will be the screen in question. So I'll have a screen variable as well. I also need to know the current tile, which is coming down from the ceiling. Say it's none for now. And I'm going to need the score. We will need to have various different shapes for our tiles, and I actually looked this up online and we can build them up ourselves and just keep them in memory and then pick one of them at random to assign to our tile. These are the shapes we will be working with, and we need to have these at different angles of rotation. So for example, if I have the O, it doesn't matter how I rotate this piece, it will always look the same. So there's only one shape it can take. However, if I have the piece I, it can take two different positions. It can be vertical and it can be horizontal. So we need to draw all of the possibilities on how these tiles can be rotated so that we can reference them later when we want to rotate these pieces. I'm going to start by doing shape I. Shape I rotation 1. I'm going to make an array of different coordinates. Okay, so I didn't film all of this because it was quite time consuming, but I wrote down the shapes and the coordinates of all the pieces. And the way that I envisioned this is, let me bring up the pieces again. The way that I thought I would do this is I would imagine a 4x4 grid, and I would represent these shapes by their coordinates of how they sit in this grid. So for example, if I have a 4x4 with the piece I would represent it by these coordinates here. It would be 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, and 1, 3. And if it is rotated, it would be 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. I also took this generate shapes method out of the class. Initially, I wrote it in here, but I decided to take it out. It's a generic method, like a static method. It's not specific to any shape. I also gave in the rotations as an input into my method, and I'm also going to add the number of rotations that a piece can take, which will be the length of the rotations array, or rotations count. I'm also going to create a method for all the different colors that they can have so that we can make it look nice. This is color plus. Okay, I'll use these. Okay, I have my list of colors. I put them into arrays instead of tuples. I've been exploring some creative skills this summer, and I found Skillshare to be an incredible resource, and I want to give a big shout out to Skillshare for sponsoring this portion of the video. Skillshare is basically a vast online learning community where you can take thousands of classes which range from the most diverse topics, from drawing and photography to how to create a YouTube channel and how to create content online. Each class is taught by industry experts, and what I like the most about it is how the classes are structured. They're very short and stackable so that you can do it at your own pace. And because the classes have a very hands-on approach to learning, I find them very engaging. I took some classes on Skillshare from popular YouTubers such as MQBHD and Ali Abdal. Also, as I've grown in my software engineering career, I noticed how important writing is. When we are writing a technical document where we're proposing our idea, we need to be able to tell the story in a certain way so that we can influence others and so that we can make them see the benefits of our proposal so that they will sign it off. And because of that, I took this class called Creative Writing Bootcamp, Start a Brand New Story. It is taught by this writer called Myla Goldberg, and it really helped me in using empathy in my writing. If you're looking to pick up a new hobby or sharpen your skills, then Skillshare is definitely a great resource to check out. The first 500 people to use the link in my description will get a free month of Skillshare, so you can get started today. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring a portion of this video, and now back to the game. Let's try to draw the boards on our screen. For that, I'm gonna work on the TETRIS class so that we have like a game class where we can run the game. So class TETRIS. I'm gonna make my screen as well. Screen. Okay, block display. Submit. 720. 920. Running. The running flag. I guess I'm gonna need a speed flag. I'm gonna assign something random here. I don't know, time. I need a clock. How many dots time the clock? So that one. This makes sense. Oh, I didn't notice this is inside the init. Oh, I have a new keyboard and I haven't fully figured it out yet. We need to draw the board. We need to use a rectangle to draw the actual board. I'll just a method called draw since I'm already in there. So I'm defining a block size so that I know how big a piece, like a pixel of our board game will be. And I'm using that to draw the boards, and I'm defining an X and Y offset so that the boards won't be attached to the corners and the edges of the screen, so that we have it like nice and central. And I'm just trying to draw a rectangle using these variables. Okay, let's see if this works now. Oh, okay, it's working. Great. Oh, there is a window. It was showing up on a different screen. I have to say, this is really not that easy. I think that building games really encompasses the essence of programming. Like, programming is about creativity and problem solving and logical thinking. And you really have to use all of that when you're building games. You need to be able to break down complex tasks into doable steps and try not to die of frustration when even those steps become complex and difficult. Speaking of games, if you haven't read this book, I definitely recommend it. I finished it last week. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. It's the story of two brilliant university students who are friends and they decide to build a video game together. This is for sure the best book I read this year. It was incredible. It contains very realistic human characters, which I like. No one is fully good, no one is fully evil, like everyone is human, everyone makes mistakes. I think anyone working in STEM would love to read this, so I definitely recommend it. Now back to my Tetris. I have a board. So just to give you a brief update, I think what did it was moving the pygame display flip. I had it before filling out the screen with black, but actually it needs to come after. The screen with black was overriding my board, so that was the problem. Now we can start working on rendering a tile. Shape, rotations. So each tile will have a shape and it will have an array of the different rotations it can take. So I want to pass that into the class. Maybe instead of passing in an array with the rotations, I'll just pass in which rotation it is. So like if it's rotation 0, rotation 1, rotation 2, 3. So obviously there are only 4 options, so I'll do that instead. So by default it will be rotation 0, so the first one. Rotation equals rotation. And it needs a position on the screen. And position, maybe, actually I want a position in X and a position in Y. And I'm gonna assign them to a predetermined space at the top of my board, so that when a tile is coming, it will by default appear at the top of the board, and then I'm gonna make it fall down the screen. I'm gonna say it's 5 and 0. Position X and Y. I'm gonna define a render function so that we can draw the tile. Then I'm gonna pass in the boards so that I can render it on the boards. Oh god, but then I need a method on the board to draw the tile. Okay, I can do that. For the draw tile. And I need to create this myself. But I need to draw the tile. I need to pass in the position coordinates, the position. Okay, I think I have a method to draw the tile. I pass in the tile into this method, and then I get its coordinates with the required offset for the screen. Once I have that, I just make sure that it is already present inside my board, and if it is, I assign it a color. Now I need to render my tile. I'm not sure how to do this. So I fill the screen with black, I draw the board. Okay guys, I've made some progress. Let me walk you through it. So I added a few methods here, like get color and get shape, to randomly get a color from my array of shapes and colors. Sorry, I mean to randomly get an option out of either the color array or the shape array. Then I created a function createTile, which creates a new instance of my tile class, and it passes in a random shape and a random color. And now I want to do a check if when I'm updating the board there is no new tile, then I'm going to create it. Otherwise, I'm just going to draw the one which is already there, because at every instance, like at every frame of my game, I need to draw a tile so that I can draw it, because at some point I'm going to be moving and rotating my tiles, so I need to keep updating my screen. So if self.currentTile is none, then I'm going to create a new tile. Okay, if I have it, then I'll draw my tile. And now I need to check for a good place to add this, the update method. Oh, it works. Let's see, if I close it and launch a new game, I should get a different tile. Yes, in a different color. Amazing. Now I need to think about how to move and rotate the tiles. That will be my next step. The way I'm going to organize my code now is that I will create a few methods on my board class on what should happen when the up key is pressed, the down key, and the left and right key. And I'm going to call these from my TETRIS class based on the key input that the player has done. If events. And now I'm going to create some methods to select the correct rotation out of my rotation array. I need some pen and paper. I've done a few changes. I'll show you guys in a second. I was working on the move function. I pass in the delta x and delta y of the movements for each tile. So if we do key down, we want the tile to go down. Therefore, we will move 0 in x and 1 in y, because our reference point is always the top left corner. So anything which moves down on the screen increases your y, and anything which moves to the right increases your x. So on key down, we want to move 1 in y. On key left, we want to move -1 on x and 0 on y. And on key right, we want to move 1 on x and 0 on y. And then on the key up, I have added a rotation function. Okay, so the move function I created, I pass into arguments, as I said, the delta x and the delta y, like the translation in each direction. And then I determine the next position by adding the coordinates to the position of the tile. So it's very similar to the rotation function, but in the rotation function, we determine the new rotation by doing the modulus between the rotation plus the new direction, so that we can determine which rotation it is, and the rotation count that we have for this particular piece. Now let's see if I can run this from my Tetris game. Okay, nothing is happening. So she I need to update the board. I need to update. Wait, what? It's being updated here. I know what I was doing wrong. I forgot to update my position here and for the rotation as well. I think this was the issue. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. This is progress though. I just need to clean up the board now. So on the board function where it updates itself, this is what I had commented out earlier. So this will reset the matrix, but I guess I should do this before I draw the next tile. Let's see if this works. Ah, nice. Amazing, love it. I'm so stupid. I had it. Yeah, okay. I set the variable for the on timer input into my update function to be false by default, but I actually wanted it to be true by default so that I can pass in when I don't want that to happen. And now we have our pieces falling down the screen. Oh wait, this rotation is not working. The rotation is just sending it back to the starting point, I guess. Let's debug that. I figured out what was wrong with the rotation, something I did wrong by distraction. I was setting the position over here as the new rotation when actually I should have set the rotation variable as the new rotation and not the position. So now I think this looks correct, right? I think this is it. we still have a lot to fix. Oh. So we have a board, we have all the tiles that we need, and we are obtaining them at the beginning of the game by drawing a random shape with a random color. We are able to move the tiles and rotate them, and we have a game clock which makes the tiles fall down at a certain speed. We still have quite a bit left to do, but I would say we are maybe halfway there. We need to build our ground, basically all the pieces which will deposit at the bottom. We need to write an algorithm to detect collisions between the pieces, and we need to write an algorithm to remove completed rows and to cascade the pieces down. This is all I have for you guys for this video. As I said, I will be filming a second part tomorrow and I will try to finish the game. And the code for what I've done so far will be below in the description if you want to check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!